Hi everyone, welcome back to the USCPA classes for financial accounting and reporting. In this particular video, I'll be walking you through in detail about natural resources, which include depletion of natural resources as well as research and development. So let's dive into to understand everything about natural resources, depletion and the treatment for research and development expenditure.
Research and development cost, software cost, and subsequent event. So let me take you to the notes. So first one is non-reciprocal transfer, very small and quick topic. So when asset or services are transferred only from one direction are called non-reciprocal transfer. For example, if it is like one entity is providing an asset to another entity, but in return they are not getting anything. So that means it is not non-commercial transaction kind of thing, right? On the other hand, like the categories like gift or categories like donations or categories like charitable contribution, right? So those are non-reciprocal transfer where transaction is happening from one place to another place, but not receiving any response to that, or not receiving any assets or cash in return of that, or no consideration attached to that, right? So that can be in the form of like from one enterprises to its owner. So it can be possible that entity may give certain property or gift, or maybe you can say bonus of some asset of the entity to its owner in the form of dividend. Second could be the form of enterprise to another enterprise. From one enterprise to another enterprise, it can be from parent to subsidiary or subsidiary to parent, or maybe like the cross, you can say, entity under the same umbrella. Third could be from owner to another entity of the enterprise. So that means like in a group company, there would be like multiple entity, like from one owner to the multiple entities, or one owner to other entity in which they have direct ownership, right? So those are called like non-reciprocal transfer. And thumbnail, or you can say thumb rule, is very simple, that you are transferring the asset from one person to another person without any consideration, right? So generally these transactions are non-monetary transactions, like we were discussing earlier. So these transactions are valued and recorded at fair market value of the assets involved, and the gain or loss should be recognized on the disposition of asset. So that means, for example, there is Mr. X, right, who is the, let's say, 80% shareholder of B Limited, right? And Mr. X has transferred his piece of, or you can say, land and building to X Limited. Let's say that land and building he has purchased at $100,000, and now the fair value of that land and building is $500,000, right? So at the date of transaction, at what amount that company B Limited will record this asset at the fair market value on the date of asset transfer. That means $500,000 they will record in their books of account, right? And if there is any gain or loss, so that gain or loss, that person who has transferred the asset will not recognize at the time of the transfer. But when that particular land and building has been disposed of by another person who has received it, at that point of time, the gain and loss will be recognized. For example, donated assets recorded at fair market value at the time of assets is transferred. Maybe you can let me open an Excel sheet and we can do an example. So, coming back to our Excel sheet. For example, Mr. X has purchased an office building in year 1 for $100,000, and transferred to X and company in year 5, X and company in which he hold 80% stock in year 5, right? FMV of the office building on the date of transfer is how much? $500, right? In year 8, X company decided to dispose of this office building and plan to bigger office. Here we can write it down. Bigger office nearby. Sale price received for let's say 800, right? The question is in year 5 how much gain Mr. A will get and X company. Right, so let's assume this is an illustration. So what will be the answer? What will be the gain of Mr. A?
सर एक डाउट था कि ये जो स्टेटमेंट लिखी हुई है कि परचेज्ड इन ऑफिस बिल्डिंग इन ईयर 1 फॉर $100,000 एंड ट्रांसफर टू एक्स एन कंपनी इन विच ही होल्ड 80% स्टॉक इन ईयर 5, मतलब ईयर 5 में ट्रांसफर कर रहा है.
Yes, yes.
अच्छा, ठीक है.
Right. So let's assume you are Mr. A and you have 80% holding in X and company, and you have a piece of you can say office building which you have purchased in year 1 for $100,000, and now X and company required an office space. Okay. Right, and you have given that office to X and company. You have transferred that asset, that office in X and company, and you have not received any consideration from the same.
ओके, तो इसकी बिल्डिंग की लाइफ या कुछ भी तो चाहिए होगा ना डेप्रिसिएशन कैलकुलेट करने के लिए, तभी तो गेन कैलकुलेट होगा.
So normally like office building is being depreciated, like you have studied depreciation 29.5 years.
अच्छा,
right? So Mr. A has purchased an office building in year 1 for $100,000, and transfer to Action company in which he is holding 80% stock in year 5. It's in year 5, he transferred building to Action company in which he holds 80% stock. Okay. Better?
Yes, sir. अब थोड़ा clear.
So now the FM value of the FMV of the office building on the date of transfer is $500,000. Right, and in year 8, Action company decided to dispose of this office building and plan to purchase bigger office nearby. Sales price received itna 800,000 and costs was $20,000. So in year 5, how much gain Mr. A will recognize? How much gain Mr. A will recognize in year 5?
Sir, पहले तो 5 साल we have to calculate the depreciation for 5 years.
Let's assume there is no depreciation. No facts has been given as such. So no need to calculate unless the facts has been given to you.
Okay.
Hmm.
So 400,000 into 80%. 320,000 का gain.
How you have calculated 320?
Sir, 500,000 का fair market value है year 5 में. 100,000 का purchase price है तो 400,000 हो गया और उसका yes उसका stock is only 80%. तो 400 80% I have calculated 320,000.
Gurmehar, how about you?
सर मैं मिस कर गया है. सर ये ट्रांसफर कर रहे हैं तो हम गेन को रिकॉग्नाइज कर रहे हैं. दिस इज आई डोंट नो. नॉन रेसिप्रोकल ट्रांसफर है और ये ट्रांसफर कर रहा है टू एक्शन कंपनी इन ईयर 5. तो आई डोंट थिंक कि कुछ गेन रिकॉग्नाइज होगा.
तो स्टार्टिंग में गेन क्यों रिकॉग्नाइज होगा? वहां पे डिस्पोजिशन की डेट पे गेन रिकॉग्नाइज होगा ना. जब आगे बेचेगी एक्शन कंपनी आगे बेचेगी तब होगा ना गेन रिकॉग्नाइज, जो आपने ऊपर लिखा उसके हिसाब से.
Yes.
स्टार्टिंग में तो नहीं होना चाहिए.
Yes.
और दूसरी चीज कंसिडरेशन भी क्या है मेरे पास, ये बात भी तो है. नील. एग्जैक्टली.
So year 5 it will be nil. And what about year 8?
ईयर 8 में सर पहले उनके पास फेयर मार्केट वैल्यू एसेट्स पे वो 5 लाख रिकॉग्नाइज करेंगे एक्सएन कंपनी. ठीक है, जिस दिन ट्रांसफर हुआ. अब सेल प्राइस 8 लाख minus 20 is 780. So therefore I guess 280 will be the gain. Year 8. 5 lakh minus 1 lakh.
How much is it? $4
4 lakh.
400,000 gain will be of
Okay,
Mr. A.
Mr. A.
And
okay.
then X and company will recognize how much?
280 I guess.
Yeah. Dollars minus dollars minus $20,000, right? How much is it?
280.
Right? Makes sense? Everyone?
Yes sir. Conceptually सही है सर. इसकी जर्नल एंट्रीज भी बता सकते हैं, मतलब अगर पता चले.
Right. So far this clear, Akash, Gurmeer?
Yes sir, it is done.
Yes.
So now, for example, you have to post the journal entry, right? So journal entry in the books of Mr. A. So year 1, when he has purchased the asset, right? Building account debit to cash, which he might have paid, right? Let's assume $100,000, right? In year 5, no G as this is non
Reciprocal transfer.
and
सर
year
ए की बुक्स में एसेट ईयर 8 तक खड़ी रहेगी.
yes,
ईयर 5 में तो उसने ट्रांसफर कर
yes,
दी.
because he's having like control on X Limited.
और अगर सर ये डोनेशन का केस होता, फॉर एग्जांपल,
Say that again.
अगर दिस वुड हैव बीन अ डोनेशन केस, उसमें क्या होता फिर?
In case of donation, that asset would have been transferred to donee.
तो उसमें फिर हम लोग रिकॉग्नाइज करते हैं ना मूवमेंट ऑफ डोनेशन ऑफ एसेट, तब तो हम स्ट्राइक ऑफ करेंगे ना एसेट को बुक से ईयर 5 पे. फॉर एग्जांपल इसमें हम डोनेशन कर देते हैं इंस्टेड ऑफ मूविंग इट टू एक्स इन व्हिच ही हैज 80% स्टॉक्स.
You're right.
डोनी टू बिल्डिंग, उस केस में फिर डोनी टू बिल्डिंग एंट्री होती है ना सर? उस केस में फिर डोनी टू बिल्डिंग एंट्री होती है ना, डोनी डेबिटेड टू बिल्डिंग.
और फिर उसमें फिर अगर ऐसा है तो उसमें तो गेन रिकॉग्नाइज करेंगे ही नहीं ईयर 8 पे. फिर तो फिर क्या ट्रीटमेंट होगा?
एक सेकंड.
डोनेट करने पे तो कोई गेन नहीं रिकॉग्नाइज होगा ना, उसमें तो बस वो दिखा देंगे कि 100,000 का ट्रांसफर हो गया एसेट. कोई उसमें डोनेट कर रहे हैं तो फंड्स नहीं रिसीव हो रहे ना, तो इसलिए उसका कोई गेन नहीं मिलेगा ईयर 5 में.
One second. Right. So this asset will transfer in year 5, but no gain or loss will recognize, as this is non-reciprocal transfer. Right. So book mein, like the asset they will transfer in the books, but gain and loss will not recognize in the year 5. Right. In year 8, they will recognize the loss gain. How much will be the gain?
4 लाख.
Right. So this will be the journal entry.
Okay. So just one thing.
हम्म,
सर ईयर 5 दोनों केसेस में सेम रहेगी ना, मतलब चाहे वो डोनेशन वाला केस बोला गया हो या नॉर्मल जैसे अभी बोला गया था, है ना?
yes, yes.
ओके।
सर क्यों डोनेशन वाले केस में गेन कैसे आ जाएगा?
नहीं, no gain in the year डोनेशन वाले केस में तो गेन आएगा ही नहीं.
उसमें सिर्फ ऐसे ट्रांसफर दिख जाएगा 100,000,
Yes,
राइट?
yes, yes, yes.
अच्छा, यानी ईयर 8 में चेंज होगा, है ना? ईयर 5 दोनों का सेम रहेगा।
So year 8, no, in case of donation,
या
the receiver will record the asset at the fair market value in their book at the time of transfer of asset, and then the gain will be the difference between the sales price minus the fair value of the asset they have received.
सर
In
एक सेकंड,
case
यहाँ
of
यहाँ अपन ए के पर्सपेक्टिव से सोच रहे हैं, यानी जो डोनेट कर रहा है ना?
Mhm,
तो सर ईयर 5 में जो आपने किया, ये जैसे यहाँ पे डोनेशन वर्ड यूज नहीं था, ठीक है?
mhm,
तो भी
mhm.
यही जर्नल एंट्री होती है क्या? एक्स एन कंपनी डेबिटेड टू बिल्डिंग, ईयर 5 की अगर
Yes,
मैं बात
yes, yes, yes.
है ना? है ना? डोनेशन के केस में भी नहीं भी होती डोनेशन तो भी ये जर्नल एंट्री होती है ना?
Yes, yes.
और ईयर 8 में अगर डोनेशन होता तो गेन रिकग्नाइज नहीं होता, बस ये फर्क है।
Yes,
ओके।
very true.
सर एक
अब
चीज और
सर
बताओ।
Mhm.
हाँ, कोट शो।
नहीं नहीं भाई, यू कैन कंटिन्यू, फिर रिसीवर की बुक्स में बाद में देख लेते हैं, आप इस पे
Mhm.
पूछ लो जो भी पूछ।
मैं ईयर 5 पे हमने डेटर एआर हमने खड़ा किया,
Mhm.
और ईयर 8 पे हम क्या कैश कंसिडरेशन आएगा?
Mhm.
गेन जैसे 8 लाख की डिस्पोज हुई ईयर 8 पे,
Mhm.
सो उसमें से 8 लाख से
Mhm.
5 लाख एक्स
Mhm.
ए को पे करेगा?
Mhm. Two things could be possible. Yeah, this is practically good question. So one is, Gurmeet, it is possible that they will transfer, let's say, at $100,000, or they may transfer at $200,000, or they may transfer at $300,000, because they are like kind of related party transaction, right? So whatever the amount, if he or she has received the cash over here, then you could have been made the cash entry in year 5, in the year of transfer. So here we are assuming that in year 5 there was no cash transaction, because it's a non-reciprocal transfer, right? So when it is non-reciprocal transfer, so year 5 you may not be making any cash entry, right? But in year 8, when the company will be receiving the cash, so that point of time there are two things could be possible. One is they pay them this $500,000, or second would be they may not pay it. If they may not pay it, then also this gain need to be recognized. So the gain has to be recognized in Mr. A's books of accounts, right? Then this accent company account debit will further increase, because at the end it is being receivable from accent company, right? Are you getting my point?
ओके, देन द जर्नल एंट्री वुड बी एक्स एन कंपनी टू गेन 4 लाख
Yes,
रुपए।
$400,000,
ओके
400,000.
ओके ओके।
Now, very good point, Gurmeet.
तो सर एआर खड़ा ही रहेगा फिर बुक्स में?
Has to get settled, no?
सेटल कैसे होगा फिर?
By paying cash.
नहीं तो कैश तो पे ही नहीं हो रहा ईयर 8 पे भी।
No, in year 8, when if they are not paying cash, but I have to pay taxes on gain,
राइट।
right? For the tax purposes, it has to be recognized again.
वो मैं समझ गया, बट अगर नेक्स्ट ईयर लाइक मेरा ईयर क्लोज हो गया,
Mm-hmm.
नेक्स्ट ईयर में मैं अपना एआर कंटिन्यू करूंगा, मैं वो तो एजेड एआर हो जाएगा, पे तो
Or
होना ही नहीं है, तो
no,
खड़ा ही रहेगा बुक्स पे।
no. Otherwise, if you are writing off, that can be possible.
ओके, एक टाइम के तो राइट ऑफ करना ही पड़ेगा बेसिकली।
No, it depends. It depends. For example, like let's assume you have a company. Let's assume Gourmet here has Action company, a private company, in which you have given the asset, right? Just look at practically why you will give the asset to company X. Why will you give your building, office building, to company X? Because you are the ultimate beneficiary.
राइट।
right?
Yeah.
That is the reason you are providing. Otherwise, why not you provide your office building to me, Akash or Shiva?
Right.
The whole objective is, it is like from one pocket to another pocket you are transferring. That is what the related party transactions are generally.
Right.
Right? So in that case of scenario, either you will be recognizing the entire gain in the books of the company and you will be paying taxes over there, or here in this kind of transaction, it is partly recognized in your books and partly recognized in the company's books, but the tax authority has to take the entire taxes.
Okay.
Right? Make sense?
Yes.
Just look at like substance over form. If you just look at substance, it is being diluting to two people or two entities. But if you look at substance over form, the person is same, who is ultimately beneficiary of the transaction.
ये सर, और एक्स की बुक में मतलब ट्रू पिक्चर दिखाने के लिए एक्स एंड कंपनी रिलेटेड पार्टी में भी ये अट्रैक्ट होगा, है ना?
Yes.
ठीक बात है।
Right.
सर वो
इस
एक्स एंड कंपनी के केस में देख लेते हैं, वहां एक्चुअली मेन चीज आएगी 280 और वो सारी चीजें जो करनी है
So now
उनकी बुक्स
maybe
में।
we can continue. X and company books. Year 1, no G, right? In year 5,
हाँ,
receipt of
एसेट्स एट फेयर मार्केट वैल्यू।
at so that is building account debit. How much is it? $500,000
5 लाख
to
2x।
A.
हाँ, एग्जैक्टली।
In year 8,
सेल एंड देन पेइंग।
right? So what will be the journal entry? How much cash they are receiving?
8 lakh.
8 lakh.
8 लाख।
To
Building account.
टू बिल्ड अप।
how much? 500?
Correct.
हाँ, ये सर यहाँ 3 लाख फिर टीएल टू बैंक कर देंगे 20,000, तो टोटल 280 गिना जाएगा नेट।
Two expenses, no? There are 20,000.
Basically, वो
What was that? 20,000 was
सर वो
disposition cost.
कॉस्ट थी, यहाँ पे भी डाल सकते हो।
हाँ, यहाँ से भी कर सकते हैं।
Cool. Right. And now, as they have received the cash, so they might be settling the payable.
सर वो इसमें कैपिटल गेन क्यों मेंशन कर रहे हैं स्पेसिफिकली? मतलब
Hmm.
वैसे अकाउंट्स में जनरली नहीं लिखते ना कैपिटल गेन, वी ओनली राइट गेन,
Yes, you can say so.
है ना? वही
Hmm.
बस।
So just for your identification.
आई एम डन सर।
Mr. E account debit, how much they need to pay?
5 लाख।
ये 5 lakhs.
$500,000 to
टू बैंक कैश हो गया।
dollar. right? So this will be like journal entries in the X companies, right? Any doubt?
No, sir.
No, sir, done है.
Right? So this is about like the non-reciprocal transfers. Now we are jumping onto the second topic, which is research and development cost. So what is research and development costs? Any idea?
सर मतलब एक इंटेंजिबल एसेट को बनाते समय आई गेस मोस्टली इंटेंजिबल एसेट के केस में जो मैंने इंडियन अकाउंटिंग में पढ़ा है उस समय जो कॉस्ट इनकर होती है सब वो स्टेजेस में रहती है. मतलब पहले आप थोड़ी सी रिसर्च करते हो, फिर जब वो एक लेवल ऑफ एक्सपेंडिचर के बाद आ जाती है जहां पे कैसे टेक्निकल फीजिबिलिटी इज एस्टैब्लिश्ड, उसके बाद वाला एक्सपेंस जो रहता है वो आप कैपिटलाइज करते हो. ऐसा कुछ मतलब कॉन्सेप्ट रहता है इंडियन के केस में. अब बाकी ऑफ कोर्स मतलब वहां पे जो एएससी रहता है उसमें अलग भी हो सकता है, तो आई एम नॉट वेरी श्योर अबाउट इट. ऐसा रहता है.
Yeah, Akash, Ayush.
हाँ जी सर. प्लस मतलब आई एग्री विद शिवम, बट द थिंग इज कि जनरल टर्म्स में रिसर्च एंड डेवलपमेंट अगर हम देखें तो इट्स लाइक making something new, spending some cost on developing a new product. So all the costs which we are incurring to get that final product, okay, all those costs which are incurred in relation to that, that would be a research and development cost. And, further steps we have to take after looking at each scenario, whether we need to capitalize it or not. That is a different issue.
Yeah. Gurmeher, anything you want to add?
Sir, example ये हो गया कि if a pharmaceutical company is making a drug, so they'll do like research on creating those drugs. So I believe that will categorize as research and development to a certain extent, and after a certain point that will be capitalized.
Yeah, very true. So all of you are like, very correct in overall. So I can just summarize, like you said, first we need to understand whether those expenditure, like classification to the expenses and capitalization will come at second phase. First phase, we need to understand what all expenses to be considered for the research and development and what all cost is being considered for the research and development. So same way, like like one example which Gurmeer has shared about pharmaceutical company. So for any company, whether you can say the company like Google, they might be doing research and innovation expense in developing new technologies, right? So company like HUL or Procter and Gamble, they might be doing research and development in making some new product, right? Company like Tesla, General Motors, or you can say Ford, they might be doing a lot of research and development in developing both product and technologies, right? And at the same time, like the pharmaceutical company, they might be, like doing research and development in certain permutation and combination of chemicals to make some drugs, right? So all those expenditure relating to that particular facilities in which the company is doing research and development work, like majority of them is being considered as a research and development expense, but some expenses are not considered to be research and development expense, right? Second thing, which like Shivam you said, as per Indian accounting standard, there is no difference in Indian AS and the US GAAP. Same way, like the amount of, you can say, spend which you make up to the feasibility study, technical feasibility study, it's all go to the expenses. But once the feasibility study, technical feasibility study is established and it is being considered that the research and development which we are going to create will last for more than 1 year. That means that has a economic life of more than 1 year, then we can capitalize those expenditure, right? And we can capitalize those expenditure from the date of feasibility study established, technical feasibility study established, to the date it is being ready for the commercial production. But the date it is ready for commercial production, after that, once the commercial production start, then after if you are making any expenditure, those are not going to be capitalized, right? So there are 3 phases. First phase is day 0 to the technical feasibility establishment, right? So that all will go into the income and expenditure side. Then from the technical feasibility establish that this research and development is going to give me benefit for more than 1 year, right? In that case of scenario, from that date till the date it is being ready for the commercial production, so that those expenditure you can capitalize, right?
Yes.
But once it is being ready for the commercial production and commercial production start, so any expenditure you are making for small modification or upgradation, those all would be expense of.
Expense.
Right? High level, everyone understood?
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
just one question.
Yes.
So, Shivam mentioned that this costs are being incurred for particularly intangible assets. मेरे को उसका एक challenge है. सिर्फ intangible के लिए तो नहीं है ना, दोनों के लिए है, I suppose. किसी भी प्रोडक्ट को आप न्यू तरीके से डेवलप कर रहे हो तो रिसर्च डेवलपमेंट कॉस्ट उस पे लग ही सकती है ना, whether it has to be specific to an intangible asset or it can be for a tangible asset as well.
Tangible asset में शायद तक कॉन्ट्रैक्ट अकाउंटिंग नहीं लगेगी शायद
No, Shivam, 2 things here. It can be for both tangible or intangible. For example, if you are developing a machinery, right, and that machinery is going to be used as a capital asset, which will be doing like further production of the units, which is being your inventory. So then, developing that machinery will go to the tangible assets. Second thing, for example, this pharmaceutical company, if you are doing permutation and combination of chemical and coming up with the formula, right, that will go into the intangible. If you are developing any software, any, let's say, simple in layman language, if I say any antivirus, right, so that will go into the intangible. So it can be both, depend on scenario to scenario.
तो लेकिन एक चीज थी, जब तक आप मतलब जैसे टैंजिबल एसेट है, ठीक है, जैसे आप मशीनरी की बात बोल रहे हो, जब तक मेरी वो मान लीजिए उसी केस में जब तक मैं वो कॉस्ट इनकर कर रहा हूँ उसको कैपिटलाइज नहीं कर रहा हूँ तो मुझे उसको WIP दिखाना पड़ेगा ना, वहां तो मैं PNL में ले जाता था, तो यहाँ ये WIP दिखाऊंगा, करेक्ट?
नहीं
No, are 2 different things. For example, like again, till the technical feasibility, jitna bhi expense hoga, those all expense will go into the P&L. But once the technical feasibility is being established, like your prototype is ready, and from prototype to the main product, whatever the expenditure you are making, that can be capitalized.
प्लस सर कैपिटल वर्क इन प्रोग्रेस विच शिवम इज सेइंग, वो तो एक ऐसा हो गया कि हम कोई भी कैपिटल एसेट को बना रहे हैं, इट इज नॉट नेसेसरी कि हम उसमें नया डिस्कवरी कर रहे हैं,
वो पहले ही कैपिटल एसेट है, आप ये कहना चाह रहे हो, है ना?
Yes.
हाँ, मतलब वो उस केस में वर्क इन प्रोग्रेस आई थिंक.
Yes. You are right.
WIP के हेड में तब दिखाया जाएगा जब वो पहले से ही कैपिटल एसेट हो और यूज्ड इन बिजनेस में.
Planning to use for
planning to use, it's better.
Yes. For example, like if you are making a water treatment plant, a trunky water treatment plant, right? So maybe like for example, different soil require different type of chemical permutation and combination for the water treatment plant, right?
Sir,
in that case,
I have a good example for this. इसमें when I was working with this National Highway Rail Speed Project, ये जो ट्रेन प्रोजेक्ट है हमारा, so इस केस में क्या होता था ना कि जितनी भी पहले लैंड एक्वायर करने के बाद जितने भी ये होता ना लाइन बिछाने का काम, तो हमारा आप वो देखते थे ना अगर बैलेंस शीट, तो उसमें कैपिटल वर्क इन प्रोग्रेस इतना ह्यूज था क्योंकि एवरीथिंग वाज अंडर डेवलपमेंट. तो मतलब मैं उस सेंस में बोल रहा था कि भाई आपको पता है कि आपको क्या बनाना है, क्या चाहिए, एस्टैब्लिश्ड है, न्यू डिस्कवरी नहीं है, बट आप उस पर काम कर रहे हो और वो रहेगा कैपिटल वर्क इन प्रोग्रेस जब तक वो फाइनल डिलीवरी पब्लिक के लिए नहीं हो जाती कि भाई लाइंस हो गई है, नाउ अ बुलेट ट्रेन कैन रन ऑन इट. सो दैट फेज आई वाज सेइंग,
so that will come under ASC 606, right? Here we are discussing research and development.
Exactly.
Right, so do different, like what you are saying is absolutely right for ASC 606 revenue recognition, but what we are discussing currently is the research and development expenditure. Right? Gurmehar, Akash?
Yes sir, all good.
Okay, so let's understand one by one. So first one says, as per FASB, research include search or critical investigation aimed at the discovery of new knowledge with the hope that such knowledge will be used in developing the new product or service, new process or technique, or bring about any significant improvement to the existing product and process. So for example, new product or services, chat GPT, right? This is like the recent example in front of everyone. Or you can say NFT, non-fungible transaction. These are like recent example of new product or new service which none of us have ever experienced before, right? Second thing is like the process and technique. For example, like if you say car manufacturing company, every year they are coming up with the new process and technique improvement in their cars, right? And third one is bring about significant improvement to the existing product, like EV is coming all the way. So even though it's a car, the utility is same, but it's a significant improvement from petrol engine or diesel engine to EV engine, right? So those all things to be consideration to consider any expense to be part of the research and development expenditure. And second thing is development. So research is one thing, the development is second thing. So development include translation of research finding or other knowledge into a plan or design of a new product, and process or for the significant improvement to an existing product or process, whether intended to use for the sales or not, or use intended for sale or use. That means first phase is research phase, when you are doing research for any particular product, service, process, technique, or any improvement in the same. Second is developing that, right? So are two different things. So one is research phase and second is development phase. So first you need to do analysis to determine whether the cost of research and development related to prior to commercial production or after the commercial production. So any expenditure which you are making prior to commercial production, but after the feasibility study, like we have discussed, those expenditure you can capitalize, but any expenditure you are making after the commercial production is start, that will go again to the expenses, right? So pre-production period, example of certain research and development cost in the left hand side, and post-production period, example of non-research and development cost is in right hand side. So first one is laboratory research aimed at discovery of new knowledge. So the expenditure you are making in that laboratory, which is aiming to discover something new. Second is conceptual formulation and design of possible product and process. Third one is testing in search for or evaluation of product and process alternative. Last one is designing, construction, and operation of pilot plan, that is prototype, that is not of a scale economically feasible for commercial production. So any expenditure incurred to the date of pilot or to the date of prototype is being considered as a pre-production expenditure. Second is post-production expenditure. For example, engineering follow through in the early phase of commercial production. That means once you have started the commercial production and any improvements you are making for better commercial production, right? Or any quality controls during the commercial production, including routine testing of the production you are making. Third is routine ongoing effort to refine, enrich, or otherwise improve the quality of existing product. That means no new product development, but improving the quality. Last one is seasonal or other periodic design change to the existing product. That means you have already developed a product, but you are making design change to look it better and feel it better. So those all comes under the post-production expenditure, and that will go to the income statement, right? There are 5 categories of research and development activity. First one would be material, equipment, and facilities used in research and development activity. So what all things is being considered in the research and development activity? Just assume you are in a company like Tesla, right? So Tesla has their own research and development center. So in that research and development center, just presume what all things will be there and what all things will be required to do the sufficient research and development. Or maybe let's assume if you are in a company like Apple, right? Apple do have like huge research and development center, right? Or you are in a company like Google. So they also have like huge research and development center specifically, right? So let's assume you are in any big company who has a dedicated space or dedicated area or dedicated employee for the research and development part of it, right? So what all things would be there in R&D center? First will be the material, right, on which like people will be doing experiment. Second is equipments. Third is facilities, right, to do those experiments. Or second point, if you see, intangible purchase or develop for use of R&D activity, maybe certain software you have purchased. For example, like if you are doing designing, so you might have purchased CAD CAM software, right? Do you know like CAD CAM software?
So
Yes, no, any idea? Have you heard about this? CAM CAD softwares?
No, sir.
No, so maybe like after this class, you can Google it out. So this software is being used for, you can say, machinery designs on the laptops or on the computer systems, right? Same way, like you might have heard of Canva,
No, sir.
Photoshop,
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes.
Illustrator.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Right. So same way, on Photoshop, Canva, Illustrator, we do graphic designing, right? For all the creatives like which we make, they are either from like Photoshop, Canva, Illustrator, or Corel Draw, right? These are certain software of designing. But for technical designing, so the software are called CAM designing, CAD designing. Those kind of software are being used for industrial designing